Hello everyone, my name is Eduardo Vitar and today I will present the results of a field investigation to evaluate the uplift capacity and installation performance of screw piles installed in sand. Screw piles have been suggested as an alternative solution for offshore foundations due to their large uplift capacity, the minimal noise pollution during installation, and the ability to reuse them after their removal by reverse rotation. The assessment of a reliable method to predict the capacity and installation torque of screw piles are very important in order to design large offshore screw piles. Studies involving installation torque and axial capacity of small-scale screw piles have been published in recent years. Nevertheless, results from field-scale screw piles are still limited in the literature. The experimental program was carried out in the UWA Shenton Park Field Station. The stratigraphy of the site comprises medium-dense siliceous sand, 3 single helix, and 1 double helix screw pile were installed. Additionally, we installed 1 straight shaft pile with no helix. 1 single helix has a shaft diameter of 114 millimeters, whereas 2 single helix have a shaft diameter of 140 millimeters, one being close-ended at the base and the other open-ended. All these piles, including the pile with no helix, were installed by push and rotation to depths of between 2.6 and 2.8 meters in sand. Installation of all the piles was controlled to achieve the minimum possible thrust, which will be difficult to provide for offshore installation, and 5 revolutions per minute. Torque, thrust, which is the vertical load, and angular rotation were carefully measured during pile installation using this Wi-Fi load zone. The results of the installation monitoring are illustrated in these figures. In the first figure, we can see the vertical load applied to install these piles. It is noted that, in general, the screw piles needed no significant vertical load to be installed, whereas the no-helix pile required application of vertical load. As mentioned before, this is an important observation since the application of large vertical loads in the offshore environment can be a difficult task. However, further investigation comprising longer piles is suggested to understand the need of vertical loads during installation. In the next figure, we can observe the torque measured during installation. The pile with no helix show the lowest torque registered, followed by the screw pile with 114 millimeter shaft diameter. When we increase the shaft diameter, more torque is measured, and the highest torque was observed in the double helix screw pile. Screw piles are recommended to be installed following a perfect pitch installation to reduce the soil disturbance during installation. Perfect pitch installation is achieved by advancing down into the soil 1 helix pitch per pile rotation. Perfect pitch is marked with this dashed line here. We can note that perfect pitch was not achieved when the piles were installed with low thrust and a rotational speed of 5 RPM. So after installation, the piles were tested in tension 3 to 5 days after installation. We found that open-ended and closed-ended piles gave almost identical uplift capacities, increasing the shaft diameter from 111 millimeters to 140 showed an improvement of the uplift capacity of about 20%. The addition of a second helix increases the uplift capacity by about 28%. In an attempt to estimate the shaft and helix contribution separately of these screw piles, the shaft friction of screw piles were estimated from the shaft capacity of the stray shaft pile with no helix. With the measured torque and uplift capacities, we evaluated 3 different torque capacity prediction approaches. The one developed by Perco 2019, which is based in an empirical relationship obtained from real life tested screw piles, and the approaches presented by Gail and Hannah and Suha and Naoki, which were developed through laboratory 1G and centrifuge tests. Table 2 summarizes the calculated and measured torques. So in general, it is seen that the Perco and Suha Naoki methods give a reasonable estimation of installation torques from the measured uplift capacities, whereas the method proposed by Gelly and Hanna underestimates the torque of all the screw piles. Other authors observe the same underestimation using this approach. In conclusion, the Shenton Park tests indicate that the empirical correlation proposed by Perco, which assumes that the uplift capacity varies directly with the torque during installation, provides excellent predictions for these tests. The correlation proposed by Tsuha and Naoki showed as well good predictions. It seems that torque increments are more sensitive to shaft surface augmentation than helix addition. Enlarging the shaft diameter by 22% produced a torque gain of 84%, whereas adding an extra helix added only 43%. Relating shaft capacity and helix capacity with the CPT-QC value may provide a practical and rational approach for the design of these piles. An extensive field test campaign is ongoing, trying to achieve this CPT correlation with capacity, and very interesting results are coming. So I like to thank Dr. Anthony Blake, who was my colleague in the field test campaign, and my supervisor, Professor Barrel Head. Thank you everyone for your attention.